Let's get to the questions. Without further delay, let's go. First question, here we go. Paulo Paiva. Vorcaro stole freely during the 4 years of Bolsonaro and Campos Neto. That's the reason for paying millions in bribes to this family. Good one, Paulo, because here's the thing. They're trying to find out, they're trying to understand why Daniel Vorcaro would possibly pay bribes to the Bolsonaro family. Paulo here just uncovered a possible line of investigation, a substantive action. What? Bribe payments because the Bolsonaro family was responsible for the existence of Banco Master while Banco Master Campos Neto, who authorized the operation of Banco Master. President of the central bank appointed by Bolsonaro. The INSS fraud. Banco Master also stole from retirees and pensioners. This was only possible because Onyx Lorenzoni, Bolsonaro's Minister of Social Security, authorized Banco Master to have access to the banking records of INSS retirees and pensioners, in which they stole from thousands of INSS retirees and pensioners. And now it's time to pay the bill. Is that why Vorcaro injected millions and millions of reais into Bolsonaro's movie? Where it's very possible there may have been bribe payments. Was that it? According to Paulo, it seems that was the case. Was it? What do you think? I know there's a pig's ear, a pig's tail, a pig's snout, and it looks like it's the whole hog, or rather a whole pigsty. And really, it's called Bolso Master. You can put it there, Bolso Master. And Flavio Bolsonaro is in a tough spot, and everything could come crashing down at any moment. Let's move to the next question. No beating around the bush. Marta Palladino says this. Have you ever considered the possibility that Jair and his criminal organization are the kingpins who put Banco Master as a front for the family to do the big kickback scheme? And plane loads of money. Have you ever stopped to think about the possibility that Bolsonaro and his criminal organization are the kingpins who put Banco Master as a front for the family? For the big kickback scheme? Marta, look at the people who are talking, guys. It's not even me. That's what I said. It seems like that's it. Why would the businessman finance a movie without wanting to be publicly tied to it, keeping everything secret, and the movie's money went to the United States? And soon after, at the same time, the larger transfer, which was on February 13, 2025, happened right after. Eduardo Bolsonaro leaves his position and goes there to the United States. Then one son stays here collecting money and the other son is there receiving it. Guys, have you ever stopped to think that this situation has been going on since the beginning of Bolsonaro's government? And it really is a criminal organization that at this rate we might soon find out that the bosses are the Bolsonaro family? Guys, that's wild. Marta, thank you, dear. The next question here is from Anna Lazara. She says, I would like to have a question clarified. Regarding the Brazilian fugitives in the United States, Eduardo Bolsonaro and others, if Trump is elected, will they continue to stay there under his protection? However, if Trump loses, will they be deported? Thank you. How does the law work between Brazil and the United States? Thank you. May God continue to bless you. Thank you, my dear. Anna, thank you for the question. Look, actually, the law should already be in effect, dear. Yes, about deportation and extradition. Deportation is an administrative process where a person is expelled from the country because they are there illegally. It's an administrative matter. And the extradition process should already be happening as well, especially in relation to Alexandre Ramagem. It's a judicial process. A person commits a crime in Brazil and is convicted. They fled to the United States and undergo a judicial extradition process where the American justice system, in this case, would expel the criminal from its territory. But over there in the United States, with Donald Trash, neither the deportation process nor the extradition process is moving forward. What exists, at least it seems so, is a shield from the Trump administration regarding notably Alexandre Ramagem, who is already convicted, right, regarding extradition. and deportation regarding people who are there illegally without authorization, like, for example, Eduardo Bolsonaro. Nevertheless, tomorrow is the trial of Eduardo Bolsonaro before the Supreme Federal Court, in which he will be convicted. Convicted, a criminal, then he will also be able to face extradition proceedings with the United States. In fact, the United States is failing under the Trump administration, and he is protecting the criminal by all indications. Because what should happen? The authorities of the American government under Donald Trump should hand over Alexander Ramahem. He is already convicted, okay? He was sentenced to 16 years in prison and faces additional charges. Eduardo Bolsonaro, his visa has already expired. He's there due to other administrative proceedings, unless he's already bought a green card with all that money, right? From what everything indicates, it went from Vorcaro to the United States. So there's a shielding, a protection from the Trump administration. And there's a suspicion, my dear, that Trump is actually doing this. Why? Because secret information of national security interest to Brazil, was passed on to the United States. Notably, through Alexander Ramahem, who was the general director of the Brazilian intelligence agency. The Brazilian intelligence agency is like the CIA in Brazil. It has its secret agents and so on who look into matters of national interest, where only the presidency has access to this information beforehand. Since Alexandre Ramahem was the general director of the Brazilian intelligence agency, where we remember that whole situation with the BIN Paralela happened, he had access to secret and sensitive information of national interest to Brazil. And the only thing that explains this protection by the American government is that they acted as spies and as traitors to the country. And they passed on information that should not have been given to any other country, much less to the United States, which has an interest in our resources, such as, for example, our rare earths. So there is this suspicion, and maybe that explains the Trump administration's protection of Eduardo Bolsonaro, Alexandre Ramahem, and others who are there as fugitives. And I reiterate, Eduardo Bolsonaro will soon be a fugitive from justice because he will be convicted. His trial will be tomorrow in the first panel of the Federal Supreme Court. We will even follow this trial with you on the channel starting at 2 p.m., okay? That's the only explanation. There's no other explanation for this situation. Now, of course, Donald Tranqueira not being re-elected, and also because he can't run for re-election anymore unless he stages a coup. He can't. He has already been president for the second time. In the United States, the same person can't be president more than twice. If he doesn't stage a coup, he's going to be out. And if it's not his ally who wins, I believe it won't be, because he's a total disaster. No one will want to elect the person Donald Trump supports. With someone else coming in, all of this changes because it amounts to political interference in democratic institutions there in the United States. Then everything changes. Then Eduardo Bolsonaro had better run, and Alexandre Ramahem had better run somewhere else, because otherwise they will be arrested and handed over to the Brazilian authorities. Did you get it, my dear? There's a coup mentality in the United States, and if we're not careful, Donald Trump could stage a coup to remain president. Shall we move on to the next question? Have you hit like yet? Like, comment, and share. Look here, a comment from Amy Lusa. Thank you, dear. In this case, Master, would it help to request preventive detention for the politicians involved? My dear, when is preventive detention applicable? When does it exist? When there is an attempt to obstruct justice, an attempt to destroy evidence, an attempt to intimidate witnesses, an attempt to muddle or interfere with the investigations, to guarantee public order, to guarantee the proper administration of justice. So if this happens, if these situations are proven by the federal police, that person has to be arrested. Whether it's Davio Columbre, Flávio Bolsonaro, Ciro Nogueira, or the former governor of Rio de Janeiro, Cláudio Castro. I believe he will be arrested, whoever it is, if they meet the requirements for preventive detention, whoever it is, they have to be arrested. It's not because they're white-collar and all that they're exempt from the application of criminal law. On the contrary, they should be an example. So I hope Andre Mendonça has the courage to do whatever is necessary to ensure the application of criminal law. Otherwise, soon, what will we have? Witness intimidation, cover-up killings, bribery to escape, destruction of proof, interference with the federal police, because we're talking about situations and criminal organizations that moved and stole how much? 1 billion, 2 billion, 3 billion, 4 billion, billions and billions, more than 50 billion. Just in Daniel Vorcaro's fraud. There's also the situation with Refit over in Rio de Janeiro together with Claudio Castro, a close ally of Flavio Bolsonaro. So it's a lot of money, and they have very deep reach into the justice system, the legislature, and even, I'd say, the police. So, if it's necessary to ensure the enforcement of criminal law and the proper conduct of investigations, if someone needs to be arrested, then they have to be arrested, no matter who it is. All right, my dear, I just hope that Andre Mendonça has the courage, the firmness, and the determination to do whatever is necessary for that. You know, sweetheart? Some people should already have ankle monitors and have their passports seized. Who, Andre? Ciro Nogueira. Ciro Nogueira should have had his passport seized and wear an ankle monitor. Claudio Castro should be wearing an ankle monitor and have his passport seized. And Ibanez Rocha should be wearing an ankle monitor and have his passport seized. And depending on the situation, Flavio Bolsonaro should have his passport seized. Yeah, that's how the Bolsonaristas operate. They prepare everything, then act like victims, poor, helpless, persecuted, and then run away. You see? That's the situation. Let's move on, hit the like button and go to the next question. People are really active today. Andrea Cristina, thank you, dear. Andrea, the Bolsonaro supporting federal police and the judiciary are dragging their feet so that the elections come and the criminals get elected and protect themselves. Is the government going to allow this? The thing is, my dear, it doesn't depend on the executive branch. Investigation, it's the federal police that's responsible in this case. And President Lula can't interfere. Lula can't do what Bolsonaro did with the federal police during his administration. That's why Sergio Moro himself, left. He left the Ministry of Justice because, according to Sergio Moro himself, it was because Bolsonaro was interfering with the federal police, so his son involved in the Rachadinha scheme wouldn't get caught. Who said that? Sergio Moro. The federal police is a state institution, not an institution of Lula's government. Lula can't interfere with the federal police. Lula can't interfere with the office of the prosecutor general. Lula can't interfere with the Supreme Federal Court. They have to act in due time and properly so justice can be done. It doesn't depend on Lula. Now, there are Bolsonaro supporters everywhere. There are some in the federal police, in the public prosecutor's office, in the Supreme Federal Court, right, Andre Mendonça? There are. The point is, institutions have to act as state institutions and not to serve private interests. Even at the expense of the Penal Code, the Code of Criminal Procedure, and our constitutional public order. So, I believe in the institutions and I believe that justice will be served. Now, only those who refuse to see don't know who the criminal is. Because there won't even need to be a trial yet, because the situation is very clear. Or do you think it's normal for Daniel Vorcaro, responsible for the biggest banking fraud in Brazil, maybe even in the world, to transfer more than 70 million to Bolsonaro's movie? Considering that Banco Master only operates as Master because of Campos Neto, president of the central bank, who was appointed by Bolsonaro. Considering that Banco Master only defaulted and committed fraud against retirees and pensioners because Onyx Lorenzoni from Bolsonaro's government defaulted. Or do you think all of this is normal and just a coincidence? Obviously not. The federal police must prove it, the prosecutor general will file charges, and Supreme Court justices will judge. And this requires the necessary time and legal process under the law. Anyone seeking the truth comes here to learn it. Now, those who like crooks and criminals will vote for crooks and criminals, even if we talk, even if we show the obvious. Why? Because they're just as bad, just as much of a criminal. There's nothing we can do about that. But we have to speak up. We have to show it. That's why when I ask you to like, it's so YouTube can recommend it to more people, to share, so we can reach more people. Here, no one will be fooled. People who want to be fooled will be, and those who are also criminals will vote for a criminal. So, my dear, that's the situation, and justice will be served, you see? People will still vote for a criminal if they want to. As long as there isn't a conviction by a panel to fall under the clean record law, or as long as there isn't a conviction that results in ineligibility, loss of office, and so on. That's the situation. Let's go to the next one. Let's go to the next one. My lovely, my beautiful one. Marcos Macedo. It goes like this. In your opinion, how can Nunes Marques and Andre Mendonça harm Lula's campaign? They can throw their weight around, act cocky. You know, what the government asks for, they don't grant. What Flavio asked for, they grant, like taking down posts, taking down political ads, and so on. But interfering, pay attention to this, but interfering with the electronic voting machines, they can't do that. They aren't able to. There are several layers of protection for the electronic voting machines, and there are a number of career civil servants responsible for the security of the electronic voting machines. And they are not going to put their own names on the line for that level of criminal activity. What they are going to do is this: censor a poll, take down a post, take down a political ad, and blah, 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 blah. Which, as a joke, has the opposite effect. Like, for example, the censorship by Nunes Marques regarding the poll from May 19th, where Lula was almost 13 percentage points ahead of Eduardo about Flavio Bolsonaro, right after the leak of the audio of Flavio asking Daniel Vorcaro for money. Then Andre Nunes Marques went there and blocked the poll so it wouldn't be published. But everyone shared it, and it keeps being shared. In the end, it backfired. If they didn't want it to show up, it showed up even more. Do you understand, my dear? There's no way. We need to watch out for a frame-up. A staged stabbing, a staged attack so Flavio doesn't participate in the debates, because Flavio has to go to the debates so he can be exposed there. We need to monitor the situation, but their interference will be minimal. Do you understand? And it can backfire. Like, for example, the issue of censoring the poll, which backfired. The more censorship, the more it shows up. Do you understand? That's it. The last little question here from Persona. Personal helper. It says this, just curious, Andrea Gonçalves. What happens to the payroll deductions from public servants that were transferred to Banco Master? Are the deductions for public employees still being made? What happens now? Thank you for the question. Here's the thing. We know that 18 city halls and 4 states took the public employees' pension fund money and injected it into Daniel Vorcaro's devilish schemes. Just so you know, Rio de Janeiro, with Claudio Castro, a close ally of Flavio Bolsonaro, injected more than 5 billion reais from the public employees' pension fund. All right? That's to make sure they can retire, get survivor's pension, and that retirees and pensioners also have their pensions deposited into their accounts every month. And every month, these public employees have their pension contributions deducted directly from their paychecks at the source, and this money goes into a fund managed by a state agency. That's why Claudio Castro took the money and sent it to Daniel Vorcaro. It's public money. But there's a catch. Public servants can't be harmed by government actions. No, Andre, not at all. The government of the state of Rio de Janeiro will have to cover this deficit with another source of public money. The public servants who contributed, the public servants who keep contributing to the fund, which is managed by the state agency, they have a clear and definite right to their retirement, their pension, and the social security benefits resulting from the public servants' own social security system, which is different from the general system, which is the INSS. They have their own fund to guarantee their retirement and their survivor's pension. The government, whether it's the city halls or the states that took millions, billions of reais and injected them into Daniel Vorcaro's devilish schemes, will have to cover this deficit, and all the public servants will have their benefits guaranteed. Because they can't be harmed by an act of the government. The government is responsible for managing the fund through a public agency. It can even invest the money in safe investments to earn returns and grow. And it did what it did. In the case of Claudio Castro must be held civilly, administratively, and criminally responsible and go to jail. And the state will have to bear the loss because the public servants have a guaranteed right to their retirement and pension, and the money will have to be replaced one way or another. Both in the state of Rio de Janeiro and in the municipalities that did this, there were more than 18 of them. They took the public servants' money and injected it into Daniel Vorcaro's devilish schemes. See? No one will be harmed. No one. They'll have to get money from wherever they can. But the public servants can't be harmed by this scheme from those crooked politicians. Do you understand, my dear? That can't happen. For example, here's another example I'll give you. Aparecida de Goiânia. This is a very large municipality near Goiânia. They also injected it. More than 50 million. The public servants of Aparecida will retire. They will have the right to a survivor's pension. They will have the right to all of their rights. The city and government of Aparecida must do whatever is needed to ensure this payment, because they cannot be harmed under any circumstances. Do you understand, my dear? That's the situation. Smash the like button, like, comment, and share, because it's really important. Ask your questions during the live at 8:30 and 12:30, and I'll answer them here every day from Monday to Friday at 8 p.m. for you, and leave your comments. So, what do you think? If you have an interesting question, I'll also put it here tomorrow to answer, okay? Maybe there's something I haven't said yet that I can talk about or need to explain. It depends on you. I'll always be here to answer you. Here you won't be left without a response. Did you get it? So hit the like button, like, comment, and share. See you next time. Bye-bye. Kisses.